Yeah, I wonder all those people that were used to go to Cancun every winter, like, or not every winter. They used to go to Cancun regularly.
Or Florida, whatever you want to
Florida,
call
yeah.
it.
Whenever you had to travel anywhere that was tropical, like I wonder when that's going to be, because there's been a lot of airlines who've filed for bankruptcy.
Yes.
And that includes all the the industries that go with airlines, right? Like all
Yeah.
the 5-star resorts and stuff like that. So it's going to be tough for those businesses.
Yeah, no,
That
definitely.
was my wife.
I think it's going to come better than we expect.
You think it's going to come back faster?
You know what? I struggle with that. You know what, Sid? I agree with you sometimes, but then I went for a walk today, and it was weird. Like, everybody's wearing a mask. It's just the sentiment.
Really?
It doesn't
Well,
feel
maybe
like
that's work. It wasn't here. I went to Walmart today. 90% of people aren't wearing a mask. I'm wearing a
that's
fucking
not
mask.
good.
Aren't wearing a mask, and a whole bunch of them are like shopping. Like, oh, let me look at the calories and see.
Are you
see what's
kidding me?
better for my diet.
Oh yeah.
There's no panic here.
I found people are nervous. I find people to be very nervous.
Yeah.
People are spending like you could tell people are spending a couple hours in the fucking grocery store.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, people are upside down. It's like the people that are wearing gloves but don't wear masks. Like you're not very educated on the matter.
Or like people like my dad who wear the mask like underneath their nose. Like, I saw my dad the other day with the mask and just like his nose sticking over the edge. I'm like, yeah, I don't think that works like that, Dad. Who am I to correct you? You know what? Just do what you got to do.
Well, they can't force you to wear a mask or a face covering because it's unconstitutional.
Ooh.
But, what an irony, huh?
No, they waived that. It was on the news today. They waived that.
Yeah,
so
but
they're going to force everyone to wear a mask?
Yeah, but the same guy that brought that rule in was wearing a mask the other day on the news.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, they waived that. They're like, yeah, for now, wear whatever mask that you want. Wear a full fucking goalie mask if you want to. It's fine. whatever floats your
They can't
boat.
force you. They can't make it into a law that you have to wear a mask.
No. But the law that was obliging people to take off their masks, that loi 21. So for especially the teachers.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That was the big
face
point
mask.
of contention.
The face
now for the teachers, they're like, you know what? Put on the mask. Don't worry about it.
How fast it changes, right?
Well, I mean, I think it's comparing apples and oranges, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still wearing it on your face.
Yeah. I saw this, like I find that like there's got to be a happy medium somewhere. Like I was walking on the bike path the other day. I swear to God, there was this old guy that was walking on the bike path, and he had a golf club with him, and he was walking around on the bike path, and he was going like this with his golf club every time he was crossing people, just to make sure there was nobody in his radius as he was crossing people. And I'm like, when I saw that, I was like, dude, if you're that fragile, maybe you shouldn't leave the house, because right now you make me want to sneeze on you a little bit, you fucking asshole. Just, swinging a golf club come on, that's ridiculous.
That's weird, man.
Yeah. And this other time, I was biking with my kids, and I got the two of them in front of me, and I'm in the back, and my daughter's passing a couple on the bike path, and she gave them like 1 meter, no problem. Like she didn't zoom, she didn't dart right past them. She gave them, the space that they needed. But the guy, like, kind of caught my daughter out of the corner of his eye, and pure reflex muscle memory, he yanks his wife out of the way. He sends her onto the ground. He pulled her, and she ended up like, on the floor. And normally I would have stopped, and I was like, you know what? Sorry, bro, you're gonna have to deal with it on your own. And it's like, okay, she didn't catch COVID, but now she has a fractured hip and a dislocated shoulder. It's like, take it easy. Take it easy, guys. Lots of interesting, I find the fear is a little too, it's a little too seeped in. It's a little too seeped in. Like, I
Right.
understand it's serious. I understand we have to take things seriously, but at the same time, you can't fall victim to the.
You miss comedy, Alex?
I do, and I'm worried. I'm worried about how is this going to play out? You know what I mean? You know, if Santi, we talked about restoration and entertainment. I mean, that's all tied in with that. You know what I mean? Like, are people going to be willing to come out? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's
the hardest question for everybody, right? Like, I do agree with Sid. Like, you know, we may be in a, you know, the fear is already gone in this direction too much, so we're trying to figure out how to go back to a way of
Well-
normal. But the problem with comedy and entertainment is that is a luxury good. You know, like we
yes.
don't really have to do those things.
No, you're right.
don't have to do anything really. But let me ask you something. Let's say there's a trip to, you know, everything opens up. There's a trip to Cancun for a week for $400. Which one of you assholes is saying no? I'm fucking going. I mean, the first one on the fucking flight.
I'm going to.
All you
I'm
guys.
going to.
Are we,
Definitely.
is it a 5-star hotel for $400?
It's 5-star, and you get a couple of free massages.
How many? How many?
You get, and it's the kind you're thinking of.
No, I'm thinking about regular massage, Sid.
Sid, is this your way of telling us that you booked a trip to Cuba right now?
Dude, are you going to Cancun or are you going to Tijuana? Where are you going?
No, I
dude?
didn't. But I checked flights for July. Like I checked all inclusives,
Yeah.
and they're pretty fucking cheap, man.
Yeah,
like
they are.
I star to Cuba for a week by myself. So like not with my wife, because my wife didn't want to go. They might go to Toronto. So I'm like, you know what? Let me go. Because if they're going to Toronto, I could pretty much go and isolate when I come back. So for 7 days in a room by myself, not splitting a room, it was like it was under $800.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
But what are you gonna do? Well, you still have to be careful. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna be there, but are you gonna be able to have the same amount of fun that you would normally have?
You were the last one to give advice on traveling. You're really that. It's like
Well, that's exactly why I'm telling you what I'm telling you, dude. I'm in New York, but I'm no. Well, hear me out. I'm in New York, but I'm home. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going out and doing crazy shit. So if you go to Cuba, you're gonna be doing the same thing.
Well, I'll be in the hotel and the pool.
Yeah, he's gonna be at home.
Yeah.
Other COVID assholes there.
Yeah, no, but Santi, for Montrealers, just the allure of a beach.
You're right.
That goes
Listen,
a long
man.
way.
I'm
Yeah,
not gonna
that
try
goes
to
a long
argue
way.
my point. I hear you out. Sid, you have a point. I think that there's gonna be a lot of people that will get those good deals when they're become available. I think that you have a point.
Anybody that's at the resort that's going to have COVID, it's somebody from Montreal. So it's probably like, I don't, whatever.
Dude, Montreal. It seems to me when I was in Quebec, New York sounded to be a horrible place to be. Now I'm in New York and I hear stories from Montreal. It doesn't sound good, guys.
It has to do with the fact that we have a very old, aging population, and it has to do with the fact that we've created an entire industry around old folks' homes that I would say is more prevalent here in Quebec than it is in the rest of Canada, North America. We really shove our old people into, old folks' homes in like the 3 biggest old retirement home companies are here in Quebec.
Wow.
He's now Soleil, Eddie Savoy. That guy's a billionaire. Like there's not many Canadian Quebec billionaires, and he's one of them. And he owns like this whole circuit of this whole chain of retirement homes. It's really an industry that we've built, and essentially, people who have enough money find themselves in a retirement home that has a certain standard, you know what I mean? But they're still all hemmed in together. And then you have the people who can't afford that, who end up what's called the CHSLD. And that's, at that point, it's not to say that you're destitute, but like you're pretty, it's like when you have no more option, you end up in CHSLD. And
Yeah.
all these people are just kind of hemmed into these places, and that's why it just catches fire. So the numbers might look bad, but they still remain very concentrated. That's
Got
just
it.
a function of Quebec
Wait,
side.
so
Like
when you break it down, it's not really the it's very targeted to
yes,
people and okay.
and I mean, like you're Italian, right?
No, I'm Latino.
No, okay. Well, maybe this is the case, and Ali and Sid, you guys can try. Like your old folks, like in your culture, let's say go back 1 or 2 generations back home. Do you put them in an old folks home,
No,
or they
we
came
still
back
don't.
that's a
home?
very American thing to do.
We still
We're
don't.
Yeah,
very
you keep them, and then they move back in, and they go
yeah.
into
You take care
the
of your
basement, and
abuela, and
yeah,
yeah. You don't
and
really
they
kick them
take care
out.
of the cooking and the cleaning. Like I find like it's a very North American thing to like take our old people and put them in the
Yeah.
last
Thanks
the
for all
last
the
stop
money
on
and
the
the good
road.
times. You're going back by yourself. Super
Yeah.
Look,
happy, Grandma. We love you, but we'll see you twice a week, twice a year.
Yeah.
ethnic people usually have about 5 years alone. So like we stay home till we're 30, and we live 5 years, and then the parents move in with us when we're 35. A gap to do whatever the fuck we have to do. That's why you see a bunch of
So all you have is a 5-year window.
Sid, that is a brilliant premise, dude. That's actually one of the funniest things I've heard.
we got that 5 we're just fucking just doing everything, bro.
But when they move back in, are they pitching in, or they're just like teenagers, just eating all the food and using up the bandwidth?
No, the parents are just like, no, hey, where were you all day? And it's like, no, I was at work.
Oh,
Hey, why
remember work?
Yeah, why
Yeah,
are you so
ask Santi about bandwidth. He has a story.
Oh my god. Yeah, that was I'm trying to forget. My 2 months in quarantine in Naperville. Dude said that is one of the funniest things I've heard.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, man. It's
Ethnic
hilarious.
people only have 5 years
Yeah.
by themselves.
just have 5 years to do whatever you want to do, man?
That is too funny. Oh my god, that is really good. You see, you could be doing stand-up, but you choose not to do it.
I don't think comedy and producing mix very well. And from where I look at it.
I don't
what-
disagree with you, but you still could if you wanted to, you could totally do it.
But
Maybe. I don't know if I'd be good or if I'd be shit. It depends on your stage presence and all that. I wouldn't say I'd be anywhere next to good. I think it takes a lot of practice. What you guys do, it's not just
Practice, yeah, but you do say some funny shit like all the time. There's things you say that I can't believe them.
Yeah, I would just rip people apart, but I think it takes a lot of work. I think it's it's easy to say I'd be funny on stage. Like I know a lot of people that are funny in person are not funny on stage.
True.
Which are some are comedians, and then there's some that are really funny on stage and are a fucking disaster when they get off. You're like, bro,
It's
you're
so
not funny at
true.
all. I tell myself when I talk to you in person.
That's one
Like,
of those things that being the funny guy in your group doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a comic. That's
Yeah.
actually a very true thing.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work. I think people there's a big misconception out there when people get into comedy, especially the open micers. They don't know what's coming.
yeah.
They're like, hey, why aren't people laughing? It wasn't fucking funny, bro. Like, work your shit.
Yeah, there is that like that progression. You're in your circle of friends, you're the funny guy, and then you ask yourself the question, okay, you can make your friends laugh, can you make strangers laugh? And then you take the leap and you realize one does not equate to the other, and you really have to go back to the drawing board and say, wait a second, it was funny in my head, why didn't it work? It's very interesting.
Yeah, I think
But
comedy when you do it in front of strangers, and there's a few people that get to that level of understanding. There's different types of you got to read the audience, you got to read the room, and you got to kind of like have to do a play by play. But it takes several years to develop that sense of you have to be relatable, even if you do a show for like here in New York, you go to the Bronx or you go to Harlem, and then you do a show for a predominantly African American audience, Black audience. Why am I saying African American? I'm Latino. I can say Black. for a black audience, and then you have to go all the way down to I don't know, New York Comedy Club, where there's an audience that's totally different. It's white people, tourists from all over the country, and Europe and stuff. And there is a sense, there's only I've seen people that are able to travel with their material, and when you're the group funny guy, the clown, y- that's your target market, your friends, your
Right.
buddies. You're talking about things that are relatable and funny to them, not to the
Yeah.
global. And I think that's been one of the biggest kind of like discoveries for me doing stand up, is like, you could be the most hilarious guy in the group, but if you don't have that sense of respect for the audience, forget it.
No, absolutely.
I think the hardest thing about producing and being a comedian, from what I've seen, is that comedians are really afraid of telling other comedians that what they just did was total shit. And I'm not afraid to tell people. I'm like, yo, man, that shit, it needs work.
You're
it wasn't
probably
good.
too honest. You're probably on the side of like,
You have to be honest, because if they come out thinking they're good, it's going to be like that American Idol. You know, the American Idol syndrome, where all their friends told them they're fucking great, and then they
Yeah,
people
no, absolutely.
shit, and no one told them. That's what happens, and you guys are just fueling that by telling them they were good. Oh no, it was okay. It was good, and it was like nobody laughed, and people were committing suicide in the bathroom from listening to that fucking stuff. And you guys caused this shit to get this guy coming back with the same garbage. That was you guys. That wasn't me.
That's funny. But so then for your criteria, that's funny, because you do have to have that as a producer and a talent if you're the talent manager or the talent booker for a comedy club or a festival, that's where what you're saying, you had the honesty, the transparency with someone's. You have to be, and that's why.
But you got to be honest.
You got to be honest, and sometimes being honest means you have to be a bit of a dick. Like, honesty sometimes brings that. How do you tell someone that they're not funny? Someone that has been doing stand-up for whatever many years, and how do you come up to them and be like, "Hey, just so you know, you've been wasting many years of your life."
Well,
it's not that.
Like I did because of my job. I go to Chicago, and I performed at Zanies in Chicago a couple of times. And I walked in, I met the manager, and I booked a spot once, and I did okay. And every time I went back, he gave me a spot. And the manager of the club, this is the only time I've ever seen this, is that during all the sets, she's actually taking notes. And at the end of the set, she would specifically tell you, this went well, this did not go well, you do more with this, do less of that. And she came back with real brutal feedback, but real feedback, and I was like, it was the first and only time I had ever seen that. Someone come up with, bullet point, and dang, and I was like, oh my God, like, just but like, she's a professional. She runs a 24/7 comedy club. You know what I mean? So yeah, she really took to her job very seriously, and I really appreciated that. And she like to Sid's point, she did not mince her words, and she did not sugarcoat it. Like, you know what I mean?
She's not a comedian, though.
No.
Yeah.
So when you're a comedian, you kind of, in the back of your head, you always have that thing where like, oh, this comedian, maybe this guy will help me out one day, so let me not tell him he's shit. And you have that, and people, and you talk to people, and you're like, man, why'd you tell him that? You're like, well, maybe one day, he's gonna put me on his show. He's gonna make it, and he's gonna bring me along with him. I'm like, bro, that's a shit way of looking at things. Just tell him it wasn't good, because it's gonna help in the long run. What you're doing is you're enabling this.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Do you find that there's like some comics that like they look at their performance with rose-colored glasses? Like they go up and they're like, yeah, I did well. Like even though they did, like, because for me, if I didn't kill, I sucked. Like getting a couple of laughs is not okay. Like you need to kill, and anything below that, meh. Who cares?
I would say that's 80% of the comedian's problem, because they don't know they're doing badly, so they keep doing the same set. And I've spoken to a lot of comedians, and a lot of them are like, no, I think they liked it because they were smiling. But I go, no, bro, they're just smiling because they want you to feel comfortable that it was so shit. So they're smiling, but they're not laughing. I go, and we feel it in the back of the room. You're like, man, this is not going well. Like, and they try to argue with you. They're like, no, it went well. They were smiling. I go, bro, it didn't go well.
That's
and then you ask other comedians, and you hear the other comedians behind you going, no, it was a great set, man, great set. You hear that, here, pound, bro. And I'm like, bro, this guy, you're setting him up for disaster, for failure.
Yeah.
Which I think, anyways.
I agree with you. I think that there is something to be said about producers and people like you that have that drive to do the other side of the business, which is just as important as the comedy side of it, right? Like you have to be. Some people I've met people that are super funny but have no idea how to do the other side of comedy, and I think that that's another problem, is that you could be very funny, but if you don't really, place yourself in places, or you're strategically moving forward, then you're always at that stuck, like that level where you're stuck, and you don't you're just kind of like, okay, well, I'm hanging out with the same 5 assholes and I'm not moving forward. So it's being funny, but also being like moving forward with what you're working on.
What scares me, and when this comes to an end, if we can say that, well, let's say when the machine starts picking back up, what scares me about the comedy shows when we first start is like going to be for like the next 3 to 6 to 9 months. It's going to be like single premise comedy shows. Like what else are people going to talk about except this? And it's
Sid said this. He said everybody's going to be an open mic comic when we get back, and I totally agree with that. Everybody's going to be so out of their element that it's going to feel like everybody's just doing amateur night.
Yeah.
I told these guys,
single premise though. Like that's all we're going to be talking about too.
I told these guys, either I'm gonna tell people, look, there's no Corona jokes allowed, or you're allowed 1%. But
you can't be China. You can't China comedy. You can't just tell people what to joke about.
Oh yes, you can.
You can't. That's your whole job as a producer. It's like, hey, bro, we'll talk about this shit. It's like, the comedy up. We've all had slow nights, right?
Yeah.
And the comics that come up and that can't make a room of 10 laugh, like they haven't, their craft isn't really good yet. Like I've seen the guys that are really good destroy even with 10 people. Like people come up and they destroy with 10 people, but the guys they only want to perform in front of large crowds.
Mm-hmm.
And they come up and they're like, it was my dream to, and I've heard this joke fucking 1,000. So it was always my dream to like quit my job and perform in front of 10 people or whatever the fucking number is in the crowd. Bro, no, you're not making people feel at ease that there is 10 people in the crowd.
So true. That is so true, dude.
Everybody after you, number one. And I tell people, don't fucking do this joke. And the people that do it, I tell them right when they come off, I go, don't ever do that, ever, anywhere. I go, you're not putting people at ease. It's harder for everybody else. Everybody's going to have a shit time because now they're like, oh, what am I doing here with 9 other people? Yeah,
you're making them feel you undervalue the show, so it becomes this like shitty open mic. All right, guys. So I'm gonna give us the light. We got 2 minutes to wrap it up.
All right, cool, man.
Nice light.
Thanks, Santi. You're getting the light now.
I'm all Zoom, man. Now. It's Zoom gave me the light. I'm being the messenger.
So Alex, if they open up the shows tomorrow, are you going to perform?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. You say jump. I say how high. And you know what? When we go out there, we all have to buy Corona beer because Molson is losing their pants because ever since this came out, Corona sales have fallen through the floor. That's how silly people are. So we have to encourage. I like my Mexican beer, so we have to go out there and drink some Coronas. I can't wait to have a beer with you guys.
All right.
Awesome,
same here, buddy.
Thanks for doing the podcast, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, Santi, stay safe in New York. Nice seeing you. Next time you come up Montreal, we'll have a beer
Absolutely,
too.
Man. Thank you for doing Thank you.
Yeah.
It's good seeing you. Thank you for doing the
Good
podcast,
to
man.
see you.
All right.
Good to see
Stay
you
safe,
guys.
guys.
Take care, Sid, Santi.
All right, Sid.
Alex,
Keep
later,
being
Sid.
funny, bro. Sid, you crack me up, bro. That's fucking hilarious.